We have never invested as much in public education as we should have because we've always had kind of a private notion of children. Your kid is yours and totally your responsibility. We haven't had a very collective notion of these are our children. So part of it is we have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities. Once it's everybody's responsibility and not just the households, then we start making better investments.
Telling the story because this cannot happen to any child ever again in America. This is not acceptable.
She explained to me like a gun is a gun, even if it's like a toy gun, still a gun.
And that's what I think we need to do with guns. Really change the way in which people think about guns. Now, this is not going to be something that's very easy to do because we are, quite frankly, fighting something that appears, every day on television, on the radio, in our popular music. In movies that these kids are exposed to. It will be an effort that will entail things that I'm really not familiar with.
This little toy gun caused a real big uproar in Staten Island when 9-year-old Patrick Timoney brought it to school on Tuesday. He was threatened with suspension.
9-year-old Oregon boy gets a one-day suspension after showing a piece of his action figure to a classmate. That piece, a 4-inch plastic toy gun.
Make a toy gun out of Legos. He did it for us.
So that's what you made at school?
But when he made one of these at his after-school program at West Hyannis Elementary, the teacher sent him home with a letter.
He was told that his son also said the words bang bang while holding that breakfast pastry, and that constituted a threat.
I just can't believe I got suspended.
7-year-old Alex Evans doesn't understand his suspension.
They said I was being suspended
any better than he can pronounce it.
It's called Rescue the World.
He was playing the game during recess and threw an imaginary grenade into a box with what he called pretend evil forces inside.
I pretend I had something in my hand. I pretend in the box and there's something shaking in it, and I and it go.
He did not throw anything real or make any threats against anyone.
Are you okay?
He explains he was pretending to be the hero.
So nothing can get out of it and destroy the world.
Yeah! But his imaginary play broke the real rules.
In Fell Elementary School in South Philadelphia. She pulled out a paper gun last week and says an administrator scolded her in front of the class. Her mom says staff even searched her with other kids watching the whole time.
Shotgun shells to school, and the principal says it violates the school's weapons policy, so the 12-year-old got suspended for one day.
particular, Brian, we're talking about handguns. This handgun, a fake gun made with your...
He went like this.
But would that gesture, mimicking a gun by a 6-year-old toward a fellow student, be threatening enough to justify a suspension from school?
New this morning, 2 Maryland students are suspended from elementary school for using their fingers as imaginary guns. The alleged incident happened during recess while the 6-year-olds were out playing. The second time this month, the Maryland elementary student has been suspended from school for making a gun gesture.
Show me how your hand looks again when you did it to the wall. Just like that, you did it to the wall, not pointing at anyone.
And that was considered a terroristic threat to the teacher because she feared for her life.
Branded a terrorist threat. She was suspended from her school in Pennsylvania for threatening to shoot another kid. Her weapon, this Hello Kitty bubble gun.
According to the family's lawyer, district officials at Mount Carmel Area Elementary School questioned her for 3 hours without her parents' knowledge.
I got a phone call at 1:30 in the afternoon. So, oh, you got to come get your kid right away.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, oh, why? What's wrong? Oh, he brought a gun to school. I'm like, what? He got in trouble. He brought a banned object. It was a gun. And I'm like, oh, well, what kind of gun was it? Oh, it was a little plastic cap gun. I'm like, oh, yeah, I know exactly what it was. Clear, you know, big orange end on it. Well, yeah, you can't have that at school, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, well, you're a little ridiculous. Can't ride the bus home, you know? Why does he got to leave right now?
And when I got in there, the principal told me that she had a gun at school, and of course I'm freaking out. I said, well, let me see the gun. And she pulls it out, and it's a little clear plastic toy gun.
Do is go to school. He hasn't for nearly a year, since last November, when as a 7-year-old second grader at Pembroke Pines Charter, Sam Burgos was expelled.
A 10-year-old boy has been arrested in Alexandria, charged with a misdemeanor after police say he brought a replica gun to school this morning.
That a student was suspended over a picture of Jesus on the cross. Today, the second grader's family showed us.
An 11-year-old following orders from his therapist, only to be cuffed, arrested, and hauled off to jail.
Picture in school. Now a 14-year-old Sandy Springs boy is charged with making terroristic threats. Fox 5's Denise Dillon joins.
Or actually the image of this gun printed on Jared's t-shirt that sparked a dispute between a Logan Middle School teacher and Jared that ended with Jared suspended, arrested, and facing 2 charges on his otherwise spotless record.
A group of California high school students faced threats of suspension after they wore American flag t-shirts to school on Cinco de Mayo.
Fights for our freedom, but this 12-year-old daughter was kicked out of school for supporting him. She goes to school on the Fort Campbell base in Tennessee and began a push for Red Shirt Friday. She was sent home for refusing to lose a shirt that said, "Support our troops."
This was in his backpack, and this is what he took to school.
Plastic.
And this is a toy.
It's a toy. He made a mistake again, okay? Why the severe punishment? I just don't understand that.
You don't traumatize a child who loved to go to school, who wanted to be early every day to school. You don't make them cry. You don't make them fill out statements. You don't do it.
He would call me a murderer.
I'm waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and my daughter's in the bathroom crying. She's saying I'm having nightmares. I'm having dreams that he's chasing me down the street.
Diana Kelly says the paper gun looks something like this, a sheet just folded over, made by Melody's grandfather the day before.
He yelled at me and said that I shouldn't have never brought the gun to school, and I kept telling him that it was a paper gun, but he wouldn't listen.
Why did he threaten my daughter? Why did you stand over my daughter and tell her that you should call the cops on her? You can be arrested. Why were you trying to scare her?
I called
Yesterday, the school notified my wife that my son had brought a toy gun to school and that he was facing possible suspension. And I remembered, like, the toy my son was playing with in the morning. And I said, it can't be the same gun he's talking about because there's only 2 inches.
I was at lunch with my Lego toys. I had them out, and the principal ended up finding him, and then she told me to go to the office with my books and everything. And then she had to call my mom, and I had to talk to her, and I realized that she wasn't actually mad. So then my friend Robert came down because he had another Lego toy with an axe.
Oh, at the time he was extremely upset. He didn't know what he did wrong. He didn't know why he was in trouble. I told him on the phone, he was hysterical, crying with the principal that, you know, you did nothing wrong. I'm not mad at you. I'll get your toys back, and we'll take care of this. So he was nervous to go to school today.
We have no quarrel with the rules. They're in place for a reason. All right, we don't believe kids should be bringing imitation guns to school, but like this is, it's not even on the radar. It's a 2-inch little gun.
I mean, it's clear from the media attention we've gotten from this. This was overkill. This was ridiculous. This was not necessary.
With a 2-week suspension.
It was absurd. I couldn't believe that they were going to kick my son out of daycare for 2 weeks over a little toy gun. I mean, it wasn't even a gun. It was a Lego.
Using his imagination.
How can a 5-year-old be expected to conform his behavior to that of an adult? You can't.
Yeah, it bothers me that he can't go to school and be a kid.
And she said that they had to suspend Josh for 2 days because he used his breakfast pastry and fashioned it as a gun. Call it insanity. I mean, with all the potential, issues that could be dealt with in school, real threats, bullies. I mean, whatever the issue is. I mean, it's a pastry, And I asked, was anyone hurt? And they said no.
This was not necessary. It's just over the top and absurd in my eyes. They picked up the shelves of souvenirs of that event, and it was wonderful.
I wanted to show it to my science teacher. They called me to the office, and when I was walking through the hallway, I'm like, what did I do? It's just like a piece of plastic with a metal thing on it. I didn't do anything but bring them to school to show my science teacher.
This was not necessary. It's just over the top and absurd in my eyes.
Well, everyone calling me names like Brentina and all about gay stuff, and that really pisses me off. And I said when I was in class after they called me, I just said to myself, not out loud or not too soft or anything, just at my regular voice, and I said, God, I wish I had a gun so I can get rid of all you bullies.
I got in trouble, and I was very sad.
Says on December 20th, Rodney was involved in a, quote, serious incident in which he threatened to shoot a student.
Did you ever do that?
No.
Rodney says his trouble started earlier that day.
I went into my desk, and then I got scissors, and then I just pretended it was a gun.
He was sent to the office, then later sent again for something similar. He says then his teacher sent him a third time when a friend did this.
Just pointing her fingers like this, and then she did the pow sound, and I just went like that. And then I got sent to the office again. And I'm the one that gets suspended for just nothing.
A student threatened to shoot a student. He was playing.
They say they're also upset school officials questioned Rodney about things like whether his family owned a gun without them present.
I had to tell her all my video games.
It's on his permanent record that he threatened to shoot a student. 5 years from now, someone's going to look at that and think, this is a bad kid. He's been branded. He's been thrown under the bus.
The little girl were just getting bored during an assembly and doing some target practice at the wall. Being able to brag about Oklahoma is that common sense still rules here. Unfortunately, I don't think I can say that anymore.
I was shocked because it just seemed ludicrous and appalling.
I mean, terroristic threat, to me, that's a serious statement. That's one of the most serious things you can say to somebody.
I was shooting the markers at the front of the board.
13-year-old Taylor was wearing this NYPD shirt at school. She says in the last moments of math class, she and some friends were pretending to be police officers.
I just had it like this, and I was like, pew, pew, and then she just turned around.
Taylor was sent to the principal's office and immediately suspended for 3 days. Her write-up says the finger gun was pointed in the teacher's direction.
And that was considered a terroristic threat to the teacher because she feared for her life. She's got a serious mark on her record, and she's labeled.
I'll say that I'm going to kill somebody, and I don't. They know that I wouldn't do that.
Her mother wants the school district to take a hard look at policies she believes can tarnish the reputation of an honor roll student like Taylor.
Really and truly make an honest decision. Is this a legitimate threat? Do I really feel threatened by what this child just said?
You were on Friends at 5, and I've got to be honest with you. I have 2 kindergarten students. Layla and Lauren are 5. I am sitting here in shock as a parent that a kindergartner has lost her entire school year.
Some kind of judgment other than just, I mean, I know there's a lot going on in the world right now with guns and shootings in schools, and that's tragic, but a 6-year-old child bringing a toy doesn't know any better. The principal told me that she had a gun at school, and of course I'm freaking out. I said, well, let me see the gun, and she pulls it out, and it's a little clear plastic toy gun. I'm sorry, but a weapon can be anything. A pencil is more dangerous than the toy gun she brought to school. She's not interacting with her friends at school. She's not going on field trips, and everything that she held exciting about going to school it's just gone.
And the family's lawyer says the girl was originally suspended from kindergarten for 10 days for telling a classmate she was going to shoot him and herself with the bubble gun.
A pink Hello Kitty bubble gun similar to this one is the reason a 5-year-old girl was suspended from kindergarten at Mount Carmel Area Elementary School. Her family's attorney says she was at her school bus stop last week when she told a classmate she was going to shoot him and herself with the bubble gun, a gun she did not have with her.
People know how harmless a bubble is. It doesn't hurt. Tried to get the girl in another school since this time, and they won't take the little girl because of this mark on her record. She's not aware of what Connecticut is, what death is, what shooting is.
According to the family's lawyer, district officials at Mount Carmel Area Elementary School questioned her for 3 hours without her parents' knowledge. She was suspended for 10 days for making terroristic threats.
So now, Jose, Brenton says these words and they take action. Tell me what happens to your son.
Well, first of all, I'm on a flight to Cleveland, Ohio, when I get a phone call from the assistant principal of school that the police department are down there interviewing my son and comments that he made. I asked them to terminate any interviews until he had legal representation down there or his mother could be there. I then spoke to the officer, Al Ortega, and told him to terminate the interview, that I didn't want any of his civil rights violated. He told me he was going to do what he had to do, whether I liked it or not, and if I had complaints, to talk to his lieutenants.
It would have been a real gun. It wasn't. So you're going to kick him out of school, and you know, I'm supposed to discipline him and tell him he's a bad kid because he took a cap gun to school at 5 years old. Yeah. He didn't take it to school with malicious intent. I know he didn't.
Right.
There was, if you look around here, any given time, you'll see half a dozen kids from the neighborhood or even more running around the backyard playing, having a good time. They were all doing that the night before, cops and robbers, whatever. You can't have it at school. I'm like, that's fine. Did you tell him that? Tell him that. He'll be like, oh, okay, no problem. It won't happen again. But you don't got to kick him out of school for it. Yeah. So that's what they did. I'm like, if you're going to write in this file it's a gun, you better take a picture of it. You better write a detailed description. It was a clear plastic cap gun. The center of where the caps go was broke out of it. There's no way in reality that thing looked real or malicious or, you know, scary in any way, shape, or form. But what do? Yeah. You know, I go get an attorney, spend $1,000 to what? To try to clear his name, and that's just an iffy deal. So
yeah.
It ain't worth, you know, what do you do on a situation like that? You suck it up and drive on, I guess. And I'm not going to punish my kid for that. I mean, he was in the wrong, but he didn't do it maliciously.
I'm the parent outside the school now. Now imagine what my son's going through in there. 8 years old, he's a child. You traumatized him. You pull the kid out of a line coming out of a lunchroom and investigate him on a picture he's drawn. Of course he's nervous. The else's child, I wouldn't think it's right. And I'm pretty sure a lot of other people in America will feel the same way. You know, you're dealing with somebody's religion.
I never thought it would go this far, because honestly, I don't see a problem with this. There shouldn't be a problem with this.
It was this gun, or actually the image of this gun, printed on Jared's t-shirt that sparked a dispute between a Logan Middle School teacher and Jared that ended with Jared suspended, arrested, and facing 2 charges on his otherwise spotless record.
Because I would not take my shirt off, because I believe that I should have a right to wear this. I don't believe there's anything wrong with this shirt.
The rage still see how anybody would have an issue with a hunting rifle and NRA put on the front of a t-shirt, especially when policy doesn't forbid it.
11-year-old Tim was only doing what his therapist told him to do.
We will often ask kids to draw about their feelings.
Tim is being treated for ADD, and his therapist told him to draw pictures when he got upset rather than disrupt class. So that's what he did.
To see my son walk out my front door, my 11-year-old son walk out my front door in handcuffs and get in that police car.
Police put Tim in a cell, took his mugshot, fingerprinted him, and wouldn't let him see his parents. He says he thought he was going to jail and never going home again.
I think it's violently unfair to these little guys, and it's traumatic.
We don't get that at all. I mean, to me, it doesn't seem like there's any victim to this. He was doing what he thought he should. He's only 11. He's not posing a serious threat to anybody. I mean, that just is bizarre to me that they'd respond this way.
They've pressed felony charges for terroristic threats. It's that sweeping zero tolerance, and I just think that it's ridiculous. It breaks my heart because he's a really nice kid, and this is obviously from his disability. I think that there needs to be some sort of common sense used with these school systems, that a 14-year-old autistic boy who does not understand what he's done or what he's drawn, who has an IQ of 75, should not be charged with a felony. I find it appalling. It's outrageous.
Officials will not comment on the case, citing privacy reasons. But
spokesperson says the principal has ultimate discretion, and this one felt there was reason for, quote, concern. If she now thinks this all backfired, she wasn't saying. No comment to the press.
School District of Philadelphia several times for comment. Calls to the administrator were made and not returned. I even went to the school district's headquarters for answers. The district says they're looking into the matter and can't comment further.
Meanwhile, told Newswatch 16, quote, "We don't comment on issues involving staff or students because of confidentiality."
School authorities cannot say much about the student because of privacy laws, but they did confirm he will face a tribunal and is being charged with making terroristic threats a felony.
And the school system tells us that this was not a knee-jerk reaction on their part. They say they take very seriously suspending students, especially one so young. But the Lynches say there were a lot of ways this could have been handled without suspending a 6-year-old. Live tonight in Silver Spring in Montgomery County, I'm Tom Rousey, ABC 7 News.
The district doesn't talk about individual disciplinary decisions. However, a spokesman did tell us this was not a, quote, knee-jerk reaction to a single incident.
Their ISD denied our repeated requests for comment. So did Taylor's 7th grade math teacher.
Sumter school weapon policy says the presence of weapons or lookalikes is not allowed, stating the board will expel any student who brings a weapon to school.
I'm sorry, but a weapon can be anything. A pencil is more dangerous than the toy gun she brought to school.
The McKinneys tried to appeal to the discipline hearing panel, but received this letter, stating Naomi is not allowed on school property or at any school-sponsored event on or off campus. She is subject to criminal charges if caught trespassing.
According to Lydia, in today's meeting with the principal, they both decided to agree to disagree.
Even a Lego gun, okay? Pointing a gun and making shooting sounds can be uncomfortable to somebody. And it's not respectful.
The toy gun problem that schools have had, we suspend kids for bringing toy guns also.
Could this have been dealt with in another way that would have sent the same message, or you don't think so?
Well, it would have been outside of what our policy and procedure is, and that's what was followed here.
Hey, big guy. What's your name?
Malachi Stecco.
And why were you on TV, Malachi?
Because I was suspended at school for making a gun out of my hands, and I'm showing the world that was a naughty thing, and my mom might put it on Facebook.
That's right. But we really want to teach others to not do that bad thing, but we're never going to show anybody that you did. You made a gun with your hands, didn't you?
Yeah.
And you pointed it at another kid who was making faces at you, right?
Yeah, mean ones.
Mean kid.
But I did it across my neck like that.
Yeah.
I was itching it.
But someone accused you of that, didn't they?
Yeah, they were lying about that part. I did make the gun just.
Oh, but we don't. You showed me. Yeah, let's not show anybody.
Ask you the same question. What are you doing? What's in that plastic bag? Let me see.
They're gonna destroy.
How come you're going to destroy them?
I don't know, people are. That's what the lady said.
Yeah, it's pretty sad, huh? Let me see your guns in there. You gathered all your guns, you're going to throw them out? All your toy guns?
Yeah.
Ian, I'm very proud of you. You've got to be freezing out here.
Any kind of plastic gun to school?
No.
Are you ever going to do it again?
No.
You think getting kicked out of school was overkill?
No.
No, you don't? Yeah, well, I do. Did you learn anything from getting kicked out of school? Huh?
Get me shot.
What did you learn?
No, bring plastic guns to school.
But if the teacher would have told you not to bring the plastic gun, would you have brought it back?
No.
So, yeah, let's kick him out. Or we could just say, hey, you're not supposed to bring that. It's not like it would have been a big issue.
Toy guns, water pistols, cap guns, all traded in today in exchange for more appropriate toys or books. It's a toy gun exchange put on by Newark-based group Stop Shootin' Incorporated. And the mission is simple: start changing the minds of the youth by providing positive alternatives to crime.
Toys are the target of a new gun buyback in St. Louis, Missouri. A Baptist church wants families to trade in toy guns, knives, and swords for more wholesome toys. The pastor says play weapons make killing a game and promote a culture of violence. He's hoping to get other churches on board.
Community groups here in Buffalo want to get toy guns out of the hands of children, and that's why the Stop the Violence Coalition and the Fathers Group hosted a toy gun exchange this afternoon.
What we're hoping to do here today is change the way they feel about toy guns. We want the parents to know that a toy gun today perhaps mean a real gun tomorrow.
Yeah, I ran across this story from Providence, Rhode Island, and it just struck me as the Grinch stealing Christmas. They've done this for a few years, I guess, in Providence. The Attorney General up there, Patrick Lynch, has this gun turn-in program, or a gun buyback program, but this is a little bit different than the ones that we've talked about in the past, because this deals specifically with children and toy guns. Dr. Wheeler?
Yes, Cam.
This is Ben Pickett portraying Santa Claus at the Peace Toys for Worth Stories Exchange at the Coliseum Annex. Santa Claus, can you explain real quickly how this program...
There are so many alternatives to a gun, and it is a philosophy, really, that you don't encourage children, babies, to play with weapons of destruction.
The topic
right now, toy guns. Should any child, girl, boy, be playing with one of these things, especially now in the wake of Newtown, Aurora, Tucson? Gun violence very much so part of the national conversation.
Very much. Well, it could soon be illegal to sell toy guns to kids in Hawaii. Today, a joint House and Senate proposal making it illegal to sell toy guns to anyone under 18 years old goes before a Senate committee. Critics of this say that you're essentially taking over the rights that should be reserved to parents, that parents should be kind of regulating what their kids buy and what they bring to school or what they play with. Mm-hmm. So how do you respond to that?
And ordinarily that would be true. Although I think that parents do need some help when it comes to items like this, because our student went into a store and purchased this without parent permission.
Mm-hmm. And how old is he?
He was 12. So again, it's a concern for us that students can just go into the store and pick this up. And our school is surrounded by these little stores that may be selling these types of items.